Oh, look at that excitement. To have been there would have been so amazing. Yes. Catholics around the world are celebrating the new Pope. Robert Prevost, a Chicago native, is now Pope Leo XIV. And so we want to take a little bit of time to discuss what this will mean for Chicago Catholics, what he may be like as a leader, and if the new Pope plan a visit. That's what we all want to know. I mean, that's the next question. When you coming?
It'd be nice.
Pope John Paul II did come to Chicago and spoke in Grant Park in 1979.
NBC5's Chuck Goudie is joining us with some insight on what's the big takeaway you think, Chuck, from now the elevation of Leo XIV?
Well, they're first going to have to plan his first Mass, which would probably typically would be sometime within the next week or so. It's a little bit more complicated because he's going to want family from Chicago and friends from the United States and ex-associates from Peru to all be there. So the travel plans alone are going to take up some time. That will be the first mission. I think a trip to Chicago and the United States generally is a foregone conclusion for this Pope. I know we've heard from some people today that it may be not necessarily his first trip. I think it probably will be. The American Church, currently is such a focus of attention. He hails from here, albeit carrying a second passport, Peru as well. I think that he will be in the United States as quickly as possible. The Vatican will set that up, and I think it will be bigger than anything Pope John Paul II did when he was here. Chicago will certainly be, if not the first stop, will be the central focal point of exactly what his message is going to be.
He talks about being a missionary, and in a sense, we think of missionaries often going to places where there is deep need, maybe hunger or a lot of strife or violence, but there is a spiritual hunger, and I should say a lack of spiritual hunger, let me put it that way, in the United States. And as a missionary, you could argue that coming here could be a way to sort of get people motivated maybe to think about their faith again.
And there have been local parishes, especially in Chicago and across the country, that have refocused attention on American churches that face need. You don't have to go to South America or Africa or Asia to find pockets of great need. And so I think that the missionary work of Catholic parishes in Chicago has been on the rise and will be a focus of, even more so, of what he will target when he really becomes entrenched as Pope.
Mm-hmm. He's fluent in Italian, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. The Peruvians will claim him. Here, certainly in Chicago, we're claiming him. But he certainly seems to be a man that can appeal to all different kinds of cultures and all different kinds of backgrounds. Do you think that had a big effect in terms of him being elected by his colleagues today?
You certainly have to think that it did, Alex. The fact is that there's been really an aversion to having an American Pope for decades, from the very beginning, for 250 years of Catholic presence in America and popes being chosen as necessary. He satisfied, to use the current lingo, he dotted all the I's and crossed the T's in areas that made his Americanism not matter in the conversation. The fact that he was a global person, spoke the languages, was able to talk about his missionary work, those were all things that obviously became very appealing to the College of Cardinals.
And being American may have been secondary to many of them.
Secondary, but it also, I think, the American Church remains important to the Vatican. And the recognition that the selection of this man as Pope shows that is true.
Okay, Chuck Goudie, thank you for hanging out here with us and bringing us your expertise and perspective.